Nathan Johnson, the composer, whose new film is Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, coming to theaters briefly in November before it hits Netflix in December. Nathan, you did the music for Knives Out, obviously. For the follow-up Glass Onion, what did you and Ryan Johnson, the director, talk about how you wanted like the sound to evolve, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, for Knives Out, it was a very specific thing that we created. It's all in a manor house. For this movie, it's same detective, whole new cast of characters, whole new adventure, and the whole show goes to the Grecian islands. So for this, we were talking about really kind of leaning back into that opulent romanticism, that sort of classic old world style. It's we were talking about Nino Rota, some of these old, very melodic, string heavy scores that we grew up loving, and we essentially wanted to really lean into the fun. Ryan has talked a lot about his approach to making these is not building them as a crossword puzzle, but building them as a roller coaster ride. And he just kept talking about that at the beginning when we were thinking about the score. We want it to be big, we want it to be grand, we want it to be sweeping, and it wants to welcome us all into this fun journey.
Right. So I was listening a lot to the score, and I rewatched Knives Out last night, and I get it is much more sweeping and stuff. It sounds like there's a lot more instrumentation and stuff. I guess, how did you kind of evolve what instruments you wanted to really highlight in the new score as opposed to like what you guys had done with Knives Out?
Yeah. Again, with Knives Out, it was really focused on that very small, biting string quartet, and there's a new string quartet for this, but also we brought in harpsichord. We brought in tuned wine glasses, and then there's a lot that happens in the horn melodies, a lot in the woodwinds. It was kind of just like blowing open the orchestra. We did a 70-piece orchestra live at Abbey Road, all in the room together. So it was that chance to just lean into almost like in the way that the first one was an interlocking quartet. This one is that approach to writing, but with the whole orchestra interlocking. So it still has that angular, almost popcorn rhythmic interlocking where we can hear each player, but we're kind of just expanding it a little bit.
I love the harpsichord. I think that's such a great sound, especially in like the main theme. I just love it so much, and especially I think you bring it back at the end. Can you talk why the harpsichord, I guess, or like what was like why do you think it sounds so good, and especially for this?
That was something that Ryan brought up, and I think because he grew up always imagining harpsichord as a link to that mystery, to that suspicion. So that was something that I started exploring early on, much to the chagrin of my wife, because harpsichord has no dynamics, and she was like, "Could you go into headphones maybe for this?" But yeah, it's again really fun, and that was something, Ryan and I have talked a lot about this. Even when we're doing a big sweeping score, we don't want it to be wallpaper, and we don't want it to kind of just be indecipherable. And so with the harpsichord, I love how precise it is, and there's that element of precision that I'm following through those parts, obviously, but through the whole orchestra as we move through the entire movie.
So I wanted to ask you that, I guess, a little, maybe that kind of goes with this. Like the movie obviously is like a puzzle box, or like you said, a roller coaster, but there is obviously a huge mystery component. Are you like trying to reflect that in the score by like seeding things in the music that would help, like if that it's like a kind of like, well, is a mystery to be solved, I guess, as well for the listener, or like do you think about it that way?
100%. Yeah. And I mean, I think, first thing I'm always thinking about is attaching to the emotional arcs of the character. That's number one. And if that's not working, nothing is going to work. But for this, I've written motifs for a number of the key characters. And, it's not necessarily something that you would pick up on the first or maybe even second listen, but there are elements once you begin to familiarize yourself with the movie and the music. There are elements where, when you have a character's theme, that means another character can steal that theme. And it's really fun to play around with that, in ways that, obviously no one's going to pick up and you're not giving anything away. But I think there is a resonance there. You know what I mean? That's the magic that we get to work with, right? Of seeding in these melodies that are going to come back and maybe surprise us with a different evocation later in the movie, or having a key motif played by one character and then stolen by another character, and you just get to follow the mystery sort of on that level as well. But so that is a fun element. But I do think if the core emotion isn't working, then you can have fun going down geeky music world, all day long, but that really is the main job.
Yeah, definitely. I think Ryan has talked about like The Last of Sheila being like an inspiration for this, or like, at least I know he's a huge fan of that movie. When not that you're going to go back and like listen and like try to like, like emulate that music, but do you like go before you start this, are you refamiliarizing yourself with those kind of movies and scores, or like how do you like just like get a sense of the vibe?
Yeah, I mean, not in the sense that I'm like watching them and studying them, but definitely just that's part of our whole conversation. And 100% going back and rewatching movies like that. And that really is about, I kind of feel like as a composer, my main job is to get inside the director's head, and any breadcrumbs that they can give me, I'm going to eat those up so that we're speaking the same language, I think. And obviously Ryan is my cousin, so we've grown up speaking this language for a long time. So that process with him, maybe he'll reference a composer or reference a film, but I come on with Ryan's movies, at script stage essentially. And for this one, I had the luxurious pleasure of getting to move to Greece while we were in production. And, I brought my mobile rig with me, and I was, on set watching the performances during the day and then going back and writing. So that's really where the score begins to develop, is I'm doing really early demos and sketches and letting Ryan listen to those as soon as possible while we're on set. And then he can start pushing back or tweaking his direction, and it kind of develops while the whole film is developing.
That's really cool. I know obviously you are cousins. So I think the other day there was a Netflix event and you guys talked about how you were working together probably since you were 10, right? And like on VHS tapes and stuff. I guess like obviously your creative relationship has evolved, but I mean, like now that you've gotten those, I guess, how has it evolved? I mean, obviously the toys have gotten a lot more professional and bigger, but I mean, like, how has that evolved? And are you guys like, do you kind of try to remember what it was like before you were professionals at this, obviously?
It's a funny thing to think back on. I mean, when we did our first movie, Brick, Ryan did that sort of 7 years out of film school and raised like $400,000 for it. So that all went obviously to make the movie. We basically had no money to do the score. And I was living in England at the time, and I made the whole score in my apartment using a single microphone and an old janky PowerBook. And we were using wine glasses instead of a string section, and hammering on the filing cabinets in our closet instead of timpani drums. And obviously now we're back in England recording this in Abbey Road, and it's a little bit pinch me, right? I mean, it's just like, it's still, every time I go in that studio, it's like, I don't understand how I get to work here, but I feel so thankful. But I think the interesting thing is, for Ryan, the thread is always still the same, and it's whether we're making a really small movie or playing in the biggest sandbox we've ever gotten to. He's so good about keeping the focus on story and narrative, and it's same for what I attempt to do. It really starts in that storytelling mode, and I always talk about as a composer, this is not our chance to write our opus. This is a chance to help tell a story, and if it's not telling a story, we're missing the most important piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Nathan Johnson, we do have to wrap up here, but great talking to you. Knives Out, I'm sorry, Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery, apologize. Netflix coming to theaters in November before it hits Netflix in December. Thank you so much.